After viewing Christina's beautiful home, she took us on a tour to see a few of her projects. First up is a new build that our team is currently working on.
So this is a new construction property for Zenon Homes. That's one of my custom builders that I contract with.
Okay.
So this is a single family, mom and dad, and one daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then they have this waterfront, which just makes it really nice and beautiful. Kind of gives it a sense of privacy. Yeah. Access to conservation, so they won't build anything over there. Perfect. Yeah. So this house is going to be Spanish Revival style. Okay. So we're integrating a lot of arches. You can't really tell right now, but the farthest windows on the right and all the way to the left are going to have arched tops.
So what are things like the average person wouldn't think to look for when it comes to interior design work or getting their house remodeled or anything like that?
I think that probably the biggest thing would be budget. I think that because of things like HGTV, a lot of times budget is misrepresented as to how much things cost. I also think when someone is delving into an interior design project, it's really helpful for them to understand what other disciplines are going to have to be involved. If we're just doing, furniture and window treatments, it's just us and it's great and that's the only budget you need to kind of capture. But if you're doing a bathroom renovation, we're talking about involving a licensed contractor and just kind of setting yourself up mentally for the budget that's going to be necessary to involve all of those disciplines.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a groin vault ceiling. So it's going to arch up to the center on all sides and meet in the middle. And we'll have a hanging light fixture. And that's going to be all finished with Venetian plaster. So super excited to see that. So this is the foyer.
Is there a kitchen?
Yes.
So this is going to be open space windows?
So this is the great room, and then this is going to be this very large arch with an electric fireplace.
Okay.
And then we're going to have wood beams across the top, just kind of with that Spanish vibe.
Okay.
And then this is going to be all sliding doors.
So how do you help clients because everybody has an idea what they think they want, but they don't really know what they want. So how do you help a client figure it out?
So true.
Yeah.
It's so true. People will say I want farmhouse with industrial, and you're that's not a thing.
Right.
That's not what you want. So, and I think people, there's a lot out there. There's so many magazines, and there's HGTV and Pinterest. Pinterest is great, and it's also my arch nemesis because Pinterest feed is new every day.
Yeah.
And then the clients are ooh, but I saw this thing, and now I saw this other thing 5 minutes ago. But so I think the way that we really try to dial it in is when we meet with a client, first of all, we send them a questionnaire.
Okay.
And when I first started, this was something I kind of learned early on. When I first started, the questions were kind of what's your style? Do you like modern? Do you like farmhouse? Do you like Tuscan? And this is what happens, right? You get these responses, and then you're no, that's not what you like at all.
Yeah.
You say that you like this, but everything that you're showing me is this completely other thing.
Right.
So I learned that, and this might come from my fashion background too. When I meet somebody and I see the way they're dressed, it kind of gives me an indication of what they like, right? You pick out your own outfits,
sure.
You purchase your own things. So it's kind of an indication of budget and also your own personal style, because nobody is telling you, unless you're a child, no one's telling you what to wear. You're wearing it because you like it.
Exactly.
So it might give me an indication of the colors that you like. Do you like a lot of pattern? Are you conservative? Are you really boisterous and you like more things that are bold? That's been a good kind of secret indicator. I'll be okay, I got you, on the inside.
Right,
Can't tell people that.
Yeah.
Oh no, they know.
So she's looking up and down. I know what she's talking about.
But the questions have changed over time. So I'll ask people what are some brands that you love? Or what are some catalogs that you love the style? Maybe you love Restoration Hardware, or maybe you love Serena and Lily. Those are two different looks, but you know what you like. You might not be able to say, I have this particular style, because you don't know the nomenclature or whatever, but you know what you like, So those are kind of how my questions have evolved over time. And I also ask people a lot about what's your favorite place that you've ever been to? Like, what's the place that makes you feel good? You know, because that also gives me some insight into like what makes them feel comfortable. Because at the end of the day, you want your home to be your place. Like, you want to go home and feel like, you know, wash away the day. We're at home. We feel comfortable, and so it's kind of been a little bit of an evolution to get people extract what people really want.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're kind of like an expert in it now, kind of?
I'm getting there. Yeah. People are tricky, you know.
I feel like there's a lot of psychology that goes into
There is a whole lot of psychology, and you can't help that people change their minds. So, but we're definitely getting better at it. So we have an all-women team at Cruise Interiors Inc. And we're actually a mother-daughter team as well. So my oldest daughter, Jasmine, who's 29, she works on our team, and she's our executive administrator. And then I have another designer, her name is Sarah. And she does a lot of our plans and revisions and a lot of our interior selections, and she's amazing. And then I have my design assistant, Leah, who is invaluable. She helps me with everything you can imagine. And then I have a lot of subcontractors as well, but they're all women team. I have a person who works on my rendering team, Andrea, and my CAD drafter, who is Jillian. So just wanted to mention that we are girl strong over here. And then all over here is the master suite. Lots of stuff as you come through.
You said this is the master?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so bedroom, and it has its own entrance to what will be the pool, which you can see they just started framing out where the pool will be. Okay.
Looking around this site, it's obvious there's a lot of work that goes into completing a house project. Projects like these take time and money. HGTV has become synonymous with interior design and remodeling. Though many of HGTV shows have grown in popularity, it's easy for consumers to have unrealistic expectations on all that is involved in completing a project from start to finish.
So I like HGTV, but I know that a lot of the stuff they do isn't necessarily realistic as far as like the time and stuff. So how do you feel about like, do you feel like it represents what you guys do well, or is it kind of like, do you have like feelings towards it? Like, how do you feel about it?
I have feelings.
Yeah.
I have feelings. You know, it's like love-hate, right? I love it because it brings to light like all of this business. It gets people excited, and then they want to do stuff with their house. Yeah. But it is so unrealistic. Yeah. I mean, like, my son likes the Property Brothers, you know, and they're funny and they have this great dynamic and whatever. And they're like, oh, hey, you want to do your kitchen? Okay. Yeah. Oh, it looks like this. Oh, okay. In like 5 minutes, they're like, how about that? You know, like, come on. Exactly. Like, you know, that takes so long. Like, you did not just do that on your iPad. Yeah. So, like, because it sets expectations for clients that are unrealistic. And so they come in to a design session, they're like, oh, what's it going to look like? And you're like, exactly. I will definitely show you what it's going to look like. But the time and, you know, let's be honest, like the cost that goes into creating those things. Because if it's not accurate, the client's saying like, oh, well, you said it would look like this. Well, I did it in 5 minutes, you know? So it takes a lot of time and consideration to create those things. Those are definitely tools to use, but not in 5 minutes, HGTV style. Exactly. And, the other things with unrealistic expectations is the same theme, is the time and the budget. Yeah. They're like, we did this for $10,000. It's like, no, you didn't. Because you didn't pay any labor, you know, you probably got free product or whatever. Yeah. So it's that same theme, just the expectations portion of it.
Does it really help people really know like what it really takes? Yeah. So do you have to like kind of combat that often, or is that?
Yeah, we do, and it's something that we run into. Things that people ask, and especially in relationship to budget. I think people are more understanding about like the realness of the time. I think that's more acceptable to them. Like they get it, like that probably was edited and it didn't happen, you know, like the iPad shot didn't happen in 5 minutes. But the budget is really kind of something that's a struggle bus.
So kind of in the same vein, like with DIY, like, you know, like right now if you go to social media, like everybody's like the DIY king and queen, and it's like all these amazing things. Like does that play a factor too into like how people approach your style of work?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it also is related back to budget.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, well, I have this friend that can, you know, like they can do it. And if you have a friend that can do that, that's awesome. You should definitely talk to that friend because I can't do that for what your friend says he can do it for.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is and there are a lot of people that are great at DIY, don't get me wrong. I love to DIY, but it's like there are some things that if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. Sure.
You know? And so they might be showing you that you can do this amazing wainscoting, but what they didn't tell you is like that you have to like skim the wall first and that you have to have somebody remove your electrical that was there before or whatever. They're just showing you like the start and then this amazing after photo.
What is that kind of dynamic like working with a contractor, got a client? How's that dynamic work?
Yeah, so working with architects can always be a little bit, I feel like architects and interior designers sometimes have a little bit of a, you know, I don't know how exactly to describe it, but not abrasive relationship, but it sometimes can always be like, am I stepping on your toes or are you stepping on my toes kind of thing, you know, like there's like a fine line where it's like, well, you're not an architect, and well, you're not an interior designer,
exactly.
You know. So there's always that. There's a couple things that always come up when you're designing a house with architects, and like architects will design on the space, but not maybe on the room, and so then you'll get the electrical plan back, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense because when I'm in this space, there's going to be lights over there. It's like, oh well, it's centered on the room. Well, it's not centered on like the space, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's always things that kind of differ, and there's a difference of opinion with approach.
Yeah.
But you know, with how long I've been doing this, I have a pretty good relationship with the architects that I typically work with, and so it's not bad for me anymore. It was a little struggle at the beginning, you know. The garage, and that will be their laundry room. And then this is their wet bar. You can see here, top of that. And just locations of where stuff's going to be.
It's easy to see how interior design is its own art form. As artists, we love being able to express ourselves and are big on staying true to who we are. However, there is a business component when it comes to selling our art. We have to find a way to make money. So how does one balance being an artist and a business person?
I know for artists, it's sometimes hard to like distinguish between art and business because it's like, well, I feel like I'm selling out if I, you know, do this, but in order for you to be profitable, you kind of have to do certain things that business calls. So how have you been able to like find that separation?
I think that is a brilliant question, and I think it's an underestimated feeling, right? Because I think all artists, or at least most artists, probably feel the same thing.
Yeah.
Because any kind of art that you do, whether it's like photography or painting or interior design, or like fashion design or whatever, the work that you create, even if it's for somebody else, is very personal. Like it's always, even if it's a different style than I love or whatever, it is a personal reflection, right? Of like your curation of what you think this person wants, like what you have curated for this person. It definitely takes on a personal sort of feel, and yeah, it's difficult to quantify that. You know. And I feel like especially when I was brand new, it was a very raw feeling because you're like, oh, like, I mean, I love this. I think this is great, but what if they don't, or what if they do? But it's also like it's a labor of love, right? It's something you do that you love, and how do you put a price on that, and the whole sellout vibe, right? It's like art is not something that you want to put into a sticker, like a price sticker.
Exactly.
But I feel like you have to kind of move beyond that, and I think something that really forced me to move beyond that was one, just growth, right? As I got bigger, I had to have more people on my team, and it's like, well, I might feel very personal about it, but at the end of the day on Friday, they need to get paid. You know what I mean? Like nobody is about working for free, no matter how much they love their work. And then also just the amount of time, you know, when I first started, my business was so small, and I would take, you know, one or two projects but it became, I mean, like I have 42 houses right now in total
Wow.
between like the personal clients and the builders that I contract with. I mean, like when you were talking about doing that many projects at once, I'm spending all of my time working.
Yeah.
And so like when you're working all of the time, it has to be for something.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Like you can't like just be broke and work all the time. Like,
Very true.
like one day I'm going to retire. I hope. So
yeah. No, it's very
so
true.
it just becomes a fact of reality that you have to quantify, what you do.
Yeah.
And I think the learning to, and this is just part of, I think, growth as a person and growth as a woman in general, learning to value yourself and learning to value what you do.
Yeah.
And in our society, value has a dollar amount attached to it.
Sustainability is a hot topic throughout the world. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, it is estimated that the construction and demolition industry produces about 230 million to 600 million tons of waste each year to the landfills in the U.S. alone. C&D debris accounted for more than twice the amount of generated municipal solid waste in just 1 year. So how does Christina and her team help to combat such issues?
In our industry, we're really responsible, like the construction and interior design business, we're responsible for a lot of what goes into the landfill.
Yeah.
So my sentiment is like, I want to at least try to offset that. So if I'm starting something, I want to specify a material that's certified to be cradle to cradle, meaning that manufacturer is responsible in its manufacturing of the goods and taking back the goods at the end of its lifespan and recycling it into something else. And not too many manufacturers have gotten on board, but we're seeing it happen slowly with furniture, with textiles, carpets, upholstery, that kind of stuff. And that's been really great. Even countertops, like we're seeing a lot of recycled post-consumer content, which is really great. So, we can only take responsibility for the actions that we do going forward. And so we do that with our specification process. We also try to minimize landfill, like when we're doing renovations. And I think I mentioned this maybe before, but anytime we're doing renovations on a project where the product is still good, but maybe it's dated and the client just wants something new, we always take those things and donate them to Habitat for Humanity and other places that will accept donations because they can repurpose those.
Yeah.
So
That's smart. And then they can use it for whatever.
Mhm.
Moving on to our next project, we take a tour of a house that Christina and her team have done some major renovations to.
Another panel. That's a quarter-inch short.